So, if a massive global corporation spends, I don't know, $10 million on a cutting edge artificial intelligence rollout, what is the single biggest threat to that investment?
Oh, well, I mean, people usually guess a cyber attack or something.
Right. It's not a cyber attack and it's not some massive software bug either. It is John in accounting.
Yes, good old John.
John, who has been writing quarterly sales reports from scratch for 20 years, and he simply refuses to change his routine.
Because look, John isn't just being stubborn for the sake of it. He is operating on these deeply ingrained legacy workflows.
Exactly.
Handing him a wildly powerful new tool without actively rewiring the underlying behavior like how he actually works is just a guaranteed recipe for a failed software rollout.
It really is. And on that note, welcome to another deep dive. We are so glad you're joining us today.
We have a genuinely fascinating source document to share with you all today.
We really do. We managed to get our hands on a highly specific, behind-the-scenes corporate training slide deck.
Which is pretty rare to see out in the open.
Yeah. It is the curriculum for a course called MS 4007 Microsoft 365 Copilot User Enablement Specialist.
That is quite the mouthful.
It is. And it's run by Tertiary Courses Singapore.
And what's great about it is that it provides this incredibly granular, completely unfiltered look into the mechanical reality of modern corporate IT rollouts.
But it is also, well, it's delightfully mundane in its corporate reality,
Well,
right?
absolutely.
Like the deck literally starts with these strict mandatory reminders for the attendees to scan their digital attendance QR codes.
Right, because they need to secure their WSQ funding.
Exactly, which is Singapore's government workforce skills training subsidy. If you don't scan the QR code, you don't get the funding.
Classic office life.
Right. And then there's the stern warning to fill out the mandatory TIRA Curriculum training quality survey at the end.
If they want their certificate of accomplishment, of course.
Of course, you have to
Yeah.
get the certificate. So it is peak office life. But look, if you can look past that corporate bureaucracy, our mission today is to decode this secret playbook for you.
Because it's actually incredibly revealing.
It is. For you, the listener who wants to understand the mechanics of the modern workplace without getting, buried in jargon and information overload, we are going to look at how massive companies actually get their human employees to adopt artificial intelligence.
Because what this deck reveals is that rolling out AI is not just an IT installation.
Not at all.
It is a massive behavioral psychology project.
It's like, well, think of it like buying your teenager a gym membership. Just because you paid for it and gave them the card doesn't mean they're actually going to go to the gym and use it effectively.
That is a perfect analogy.
Okay, let's unpack this.
The psychological aspect is immediately apparent in the material. The very first thing this training deck introduces to the attendees isn't a technical tutorial on how to write code
Right.
or how large language models predict text. It actually starts with a sweeping organizational philosophy.
A philosophy for a software rollout.
Yeah, specifically a framework called MOCA. That stands for the Modern Collaboration Architecture.
And the core thesis of MOCA is surprisingly humanist for a tech company, I think.
It really is.
It explicitly states that an organization has to place its people at the center of the Microsoft 365 adoption, not the technology itself.
Which is a huge shift in thinking.
Yeah. The stated goal is to harness people's attention by aligning the software with their real-world everyday tasks. And they use this very specific phrase, leadership needs to actively create attention-harnessing behaviors.
Rather than attention-distracting ones.
Yes, attention-harnessing versus attention-distracting.
Which is profound when you examine the mechanics of corporate culture. I mean, technology consistently fails when it ignores individual capability needs.
Right.
The MOCA framework essentially admits that an organization's entire culture is really just the aggregate sum of its group's behaviors.
That makes sense.
So if a Fortune 500 company wants to fundamentally shift its culture to be AI-driven, it cannot just install new software on the server and walk away.
I have to do more.
They have to change how individuals focus their attention on a minute-by-minute basis. They are attempting to intentionally rewire daily habits.
I have to admit some skepticism here, though.
Oh.
Well, if we are talking about cutting-edge, neural network-driven AI, why does the foundational framework sound like a sociology seminar?
That's a fair question.
Like, aren't employees just typing a request into a text box? Why do we need an entire architectural framework for human attention just to ask a chatbot to write an email?
Because typing a prompt into a text box is a massive disruption of a legacy workflow.
Okay, how so?
Well, imagine you are used to reading through an email thread, taking physical notes with a pen, and formulating a reply in your head over the course of, say, 20 minutes.
Pretty standard morning routine.
Right. Suddenly stopping all of that to ask an AI to summarize the thread and draft a response feels highly unnatural,
Even if it's faster.
even if it is ultimately much faster. The friction of learning a new habit feels like a slowdown in the moment.
Oh, I see.
If attention-harnessing behaviors aren't intentionally designed and encouraged by leadership, then attention-distracting behaviors like constantly switching between 5 different apps to avoid using the new tool, they get adopted by default.
People fall back into old habits.
Exactly. The employee gets frustrated, they abandon the Copilot tool, and that multi-million-dollar software investment just goes to waste.
Wow. So if a company is trying to fundamentally rewire habits across an enterprise of, I don't know, 50,000 people, who's actually tasked with making that happen?
It's a big job.
It clearly cannot just be the IT department sending out a generic memo. And this brings us to assembling the actual team. The source deck moves logically from this high-level MSEA philosophy into building what they call the user enablement team, or the UE team.
And this team requires a highly specific balance of power and execution. It's not just a random committee.
Right.
You have the user enablement leaders designing the overall strategy. Then you have the success owners who ensure the AI is actually hitting the business goals. And crucially, you have the executive sponsors.
Yes, the executive sponsors. And the deck is very clear that these sponsors cannot just be a senior vice president whose name is slapped on an all-staff email.
No, they have to do real work.
They have to follow what the deck calls the ABCs: active participation, build a coalition, and communicate directly.
And the data backing up that requirement is striking, like really striking.
Okay, what does it say?
The deck explicitly states that having proper active executive sponsorship increases the likelihood of a successful AI transformation by 2.6 times.
Wait, really? 2.6 times?
Yes, that is a
Wow.
massive statistical advantage. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is the stakeholder life cycle in action.
Okay, translating that into plain English for a second. The stakeholder lifecycle basically means figuring out who is going to cheer for this software and who is going to actively fight it, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
And managing both groups appropriately. And they map these stakeholders out like a political campaign.
It's intense.
They use a power interest grid where they actually color code the attitudes of the staff. Green means supportive, yellow is neutral, and red means critical.
And they pay a lot of attention to the reds.
Yeah, they're actively hunting for the cynics, right? The people who have high influence over their peers, but are highly critical of the AI. They want to bring them into the fold early.
Because identifying those influential cynics is vital for adoption. If you flip a loud cynic, they become your strongest advocate.
That makes a lot of sense.
But alongside this cultural enablement team, the deck introduces a parallel governance structure. They mandate the creation of an internal AI council.
An AI council. Sounds very sci-fi.
A little bit. Their mandate is to ensure ethical alignment by following the 6 principles of the responsible AI standard.
Which are?
Fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability.
Okay, let me challenge this for a second, though.
Go for it.
You have executives pushing everyone to use AI to save time, right? And you have cynics looking for any reason to reject it. But surely you can't just unleash Copilot into a massive company without someone guarding the proprietary data.
Of course not.
Does the deck actually address security? Like, what stops a junior employee from asking the AI to summarize the CEO's highly confidential performance reviews?
That is exactly why the AI Council exists.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Think of the AI Council less as a corporate police force trying to slow things down and more like a digital immune system.
A digital immune system. I like that.
It is actively scanning these new AI workflows for potential pathogens. You have the technical team building new capabilities and the business team wanting results yesterday.
Always.
The council, which typically includes legal and risk management teams, ensures that when an employee asks Copilot to summarize HR data, it doesn't accidentally violate privacy standards.
Or expose salary information to a department that shouldn't see it.
Exactly. It provides the structural integrity that allows the company to innovate quickly without exposing themselves to massive legal liability.
Okay, so the AI Council sets the boundaries and the executives push the vision. But how does the actual workforce, like the people on the ground floor, learn to use this on a random Tuesday afternoon?
That's the real challenge.
That is where the strategy shifts from top-down governance to grassroots adoption, right?
Yes. The transition from executive strategy to daily execution starts with defining what the deck calls scenarios.
They don't just tell the staff, hey, use AI today.
No, that never works.
They use an impact versus difficulty matrix to find what they call quick wins. They're looking for tasks that have a high business impact but are incredibly easy for a beginner to execute.
Which is smart. Give them an easy win.
The deck gives great, vivid examples, too, like asking Copilot to draft a 2-page sales proposal based on a rough spreadsheet.
Or having it summarize a massive thread of 30 missed emails after you come back from a week of vacation.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Right. They are carefully manufacturing that aha moment for the user.
Ah.
When an employee sees a 30-minute task vanish in 3 seconds, the habit begins to stick. But to spread those moments authentically, a company needs the right messengers.
Which brings us to the champions.
Yes. This is why the deck focuses heavily on building a community of practice driven by a champions program.
Though the deck does suggest officially rebranding these champions as user enablement specialists, to give them a bit more corporate authority.
Naturally.
I love the champions concept. But the most crucial detail in this grassroots section, the one that really stood out to me, was about the early adopter program.
Oh, this part is so interesting.
Before a company-wide launch, they take a small representative group of users to do a dry run of the AI tools. But the deck gives explicit, strict instructions to completely exclude the CEO and upper management from this early adopter program.
It is a brilliant psychological safeguard built right into the rollout.
It makes total sense. It is exactly like making sure your parents aren't in the audience for your first ever stand-up comedy open mic.
That is, yes, exactly.
You desperately need room to fail. You need to be able to bomb a joke, or in this case, write a terrible AI prompt that completely breaks a spreadsheet without the CEO watching over your shoulder judging the ROI of the software.
Because the early adopters are there to find the operational pitfalls and refine the launch strategy.
Right.
You simply cannot do that if everyone is paralyzed by executive pressure. And it ties directly back to the psychological brilliance of peer-to-peer learning.
How so?
Champions are not IT support. They are your peers. They're the business representatives who sit at the desk next to yours.
The people you actually talk to.
Exactly. When an IT administrator sends an email telling you to use a tool, it feels like a mandate. But when the coworker you eat lunch with casually shows you how they just saved 2 hours of busy work.
It creates an organic wave of enthusiasm.
Perfectly.